Our first panellist today is Rosemary Coyne. Rosemary is an honorary research fellow at the University of Birmingham in the School of Civil Engineering, looking at sustainable urban futures. Her interests are sustainable development issues and opportunities driving regeneration and supporting sustainable communities. Rosemary was named as West Midland Green Leader in 2011 after being nominated and then recognised by a panel of scrutineers for her impact on raising awareness and delivering tangible outcomes in the sustainability field. Now over to Rosemary, who will be the first to answer the question.
Thanks very much. This isn't a lecture, this is my aid memoir for tonight, so I'm just going to very quickly skip through some of the ideas that I thought we might want to talk about during the course of the evening. And my other job I've got at the moment is coordinator for the Sustainable Housing Action Partnership, so that informs quite a lot of my thinking at the moment. Big news today.
Energy crisis.
Energy crisis. So we all knew it was coming and the rest of the country has finally caught up with us. So Ofgem is saying that in the next couple of weeks we're going to lose about 10% of our electricity generation, and this is going to make life very, very difficult for a considerable number of people in the short term. So we've got too little energy generation. The new energy generation capacity coming on stream will be far too late, and I'm sure we'll have a discussion in a bit about nuclear, not nuclear, affordability and so on. And because we'll need to start importing gas, the price of energy is going to go up. So immediately that brings fuel poverty right to the front of, I think, a lot of the discussion that's been on the radio and in the media today. We know that living in cold homes has got a really serious social impact because of the effect on people's physical and mental well-being. The definition of fuel poverty used to be if you spend more than 10% of your income on your household energy, you are in fuel poverty. However, as the price of energy began to rise, we found that not only did more people fall into the fuel poverty trap, and the yellow is vulnerable, on the right of each of the bars, the yellow is vulnerable households, and the left of each column is the total UK fuel poverty. It has been rising, it's a very, very strong on a lot of people's agenda, but slightly bringing into thinking the fact that more and more people are theoretically falling into that 10% of income spent on their fuel. So there has been a little bit of a rethink about how we look at this. And the Hills report was commissioned to see if we wanted to have a new definition of fuel poverty. There was a lot of controversy when this review was announced because it seemed like it might be an attempt to sort of whitewash the rise in the fuel poverty figures. But actually, all 257 pages, or whatever it is, of the report, I think, very quickly to skip through it. First of all, the report confirmed the definition which has been used by local authorities since 2000, that fuel poverty really is complex, and it's about households living on low incomes who cannot afford to heat their houses to keep them warm at a reasonable cost. So effectively there wasn't a change in the fuel poverty definition as a result of the review. And the review confirmed that fuel poverty is not just to do with poverty, it's complex, and it has complex impacts that it causes. And I think it's really interesting that the conclusions of this report are that however you redefine fuel poverty, the fuel poverty numbers are likely to continue to grow, and that the poorer households are going to be at the real sharp end of that. However, a lot of methodology and modelling suggests that there are interventions that the government can make. It can direct its spending in order to try and alleviate some of that impact. And a really strong recommendation is that all of government, not just DEC, Department for Energy and Climate Change, should really think very seriously about how their policies can tackle fuel poverty. Ofgem in their speech today saying not only is it totally awful, we're all going to face price rises and the power might, well, didn't actually say the power might go off, but that is another alternative. Starting to talk about our leaky homes and our fuel inefficient homes. Lots of improvements that can be made. The trouble is if you're poor, you can't afford to do that retrofit that you need to do. And that was confirmed by the Hills review. So the government came up with a concept of how do people who don't have very much money, who may have a bad credit rating, borrow to actually do energy efficiency measures on their homes. The Green Deal was launched on the 28th of February. You may have been involved in some of the outreach work that's going on at the moment. I know there's been a pilot for private landlords, which might have affected some of the students in your student housing. There have been community workers going out into communities to talk about this. Pros and cons, but it's an effort to try and solve a problem that wasn't solvable before, when people wouldn't make their own investment. And a project that a number of us around here have been working on is a collective energy switch project, launched yesterday. Free radio, Blaze radio, buses, phone boxes that a certain person remaining nameless spends a lot of time changing in, have all got these adverts up. And it's about the opportunity to not only look and see if you can get a better price for your fuel per unit rate, but by switching together there will be a cashback incentive which will increase the more people who join in at thresholds of 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, and then also some of the switch fees will go into a fuel poverty fund. So have a look at birminghamandsollyaltogether.com, see if you can benefit and see if anybody in your community might benefit. Lots of ways of getting hold of the information, listening to the jingles, watching the videos. And then the other thing we've been involved in, which is a much longer term thing, so we've got the Green Deal, which is a kind of medium term solution. We've got the collective energy switch, which is how can you immediately just make your fuel bills cheaper without changing anything else. If you haven't switched before, you're likely to save money by that. Longer term, the Sustainable Housing Action Partnership produced this report last autumn, which is looking at alternatives to building new power plants, and the government had an idea that they would invest in the community the same amount as it would cost to generate the energy, with a community who would demonstrate ways of saving the equivalent amount of energy. So really, really exciting proposal. So build more, or manage and generate your own power and see how you could actually just manage your own energy better as well. So the existing power distribution is a linear process of production, transformers into your property. What we're talking about now is another alternative. I think technology-wise it's going to be quite highly intensive, a lot of investment required, but it does give the opportunity for people involved in a smart grid talking to each other to manage much better the way that you take off the peak demand for energy, which means we have a lot of capacity in the country which is only needed for that cup of tea during World Cup football half-time. We don't need to pay a lot of money to build and run and maintain those power stations if we can use our electricity much more smartly, and it gives local communities the chance to build their own local distribution and use networks. So we want to actually look at, because I work a lot with local authorities and social housing providers, to see whether we can use some of that existing stock, working with tenants to see if we can create small smart grids, trial out some of the both behaviour change and the investment needed. And then finally, just to finish, the two projects I've been involved with at the University of Birmingham and their other university partners. This finished and was launched last year, and it's the methodology for looking at if you've got a solution that you want to test out in terms of physical development, could be a policy as well, taking it through the methodology to see if it will be robust in a range of futures that we might come across in 50 years' time. So a lot of investment happens now because people think it's a good idea or it worked in the past, but actually we know the world is changing very fast, both physically and geopolitically. So that was one project, and then the one that's ongoing at the moment is Livable Cities. So again, you will find through the Civil Engineering Department here a multidisciplinary approach to trying to understand what a city needs to look like to be sustainable, and that includes our energy and carbon management, and therefore what we need to do now to set ourselves up for a sustainable city in 50 years, and working with the cities we've got. This isn't about building new cities. So tonight we're talking about action, and I think we need to think about all of those three periods of time.
That's wonderful, thank you.